Welcome back to Market Day Report. Tommy Grisafi sitting in for Tony St. James. Well, I was talking with our next guest. He says, you're on there a lot. I said, my office is 1 mile from RFD TV studio. So when Tony or Scott or anyone needs a little day off, I just zoom on in and talk markets, which I do all day with my clients. Let's look at corn if we're going to talk markets here. SEP corn 382.5 unchanged. December corn 407.25 up 1.25. Let's look at soybeans here. Soybeans, SEP soybeans 1020.25 down 7. Nove soybeans 1040.5 down 7. Soybeans are they were waiting for some good news out of China, and I don't think they're going to get it. But if they do, you certainly will know with that price action. Looking at wheat, SEP wheat 501.5 down 3/4. Dees wheat 522 down 2.25. Let's look at hard red wheat. Looking at SEP hard red wheat 482.25 down 3.5. Dees 508 3/4 down 4.25. Looking at spring wheat 551 up just 3/4 penny, and that contract's going off. 575 in the Dees, the most liquid one, down just a penny. Looking at cotton, cotton's had an active day here, 65.82 in the October cotton, up 41, and Dees cotton 67.22. Let's bring in Eric Osterhaus from Pinion Risk Management. Eric, how you doing?
Hey, doing great. How are you?
Good. We were talking before we went live about the difference between Eastern Kansas and Western Kansas. And yeah, that's cattle country out in the east side, huh?
Yeah, the best way to describe the difference between Eastern Kansas and Western Kansas is everybody describes Kansas as flat, and that's mainly because there's no trees out in Western Kansas. So trees on the eastern half, not a lot of trees on the western half. So that's the biggest difference.
One thing I noticed out there is it's green. This is not normal, right? For that state to be that green?
Not that part of the state. No, usually by this time of the year, and even some of the better times of the year where it's supposed to be, it's raining elsewhere. It doesn't rain there. So it's been a very unusual year from the precipitation standpoint for that direction. Yes.
Now, I'll ask you one more question before we get into the markets. But if normally it's dry out there and you have to feed those cattle corn, and I saw these cattle, I could barely see them. They were walking through thick grass. They look like people skiing in 2 feet of fresh powder. That's less corn we're going to have to use, correct?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's pretty simple math. They have usually the grass is faded off as something that they can graze on, and it's solely corn. But not only do we have reduced numbers for cattle, we also have them eating less corn because of that factor as well.
Yeah. All right, real quick, with a minute left, corn, wheat, and beans. What are you talking to clients about?
I'll start with beans because you mentioned that a little bit earlier there that the bean market might have been looking for something happening there with China, and we're just not seeing that. I know we had a decent export number. Again, I think a lot of that is a pivot, going into that next year, but I think we're still. It's very concerning not to see any sales there to China at this point. Now, I do know we have some unknown sales out there that are floating around. Perhaps maybe some of that is to China, but it really looks like China's going to continue to use that Brazilian crop as their source as they continue their negotiations with the U.S. on the tariffs. So, but again, looking at that bean chart, at least, good news, bad news, I suppose. But the range has been basically 970 to 1070 for most of the last 8 to 10 months. And I would say we're in the top third of that chart rather than the middle or the bottom. And so this time of the year, beans, we start to run down on the fundamental weather concerns, and not that they're not going to stay out there as to what our production is, but
right.
We do start seeing that risk come off typically.
Perfect.
And again, with producers who maybe need to catch up a little bit, I'd rather do things in the top third of the chart than the middle or the bottom.
That's awesome. You stay right there. We're going to take a commercial break, come back with more Market Day Report. We're going to talk cattle and a little bit more about Kansas when Market Day Report returns. Hi, Tommy Grisafi with AgBull Trading. I believe free information is costing you too much. Are you ready to merchandise grain like a professional? Please call us at 1-855-737-FARM. AgBull Trading is a division of Nesvick Trading Group LLC. Welcome back to Market Day Report. Well, one of the beauties of going on commercial break is your friends get to text you and say, wish me a happy birthday. Actually, he would never do that, but I got to give Spike Ellingson, a dear friend from North Dakota. He's at the Farm Progress Show. I said, Spike, if you want to hear your name on national TV, run to the RFD TV booth at Farm Progress Show. Let's get into cattle. No more birthday wishes here. Are we getting a gift, as we might say? Live cattle, August live cattle, 242.47, down 77. Live cattle, 239.62, up 10. Let's go to feeders because I definitely want to spend some more time with Eric here. Feeder cattle, how we doing? How you doing? August feeder cattle, 365.95, up 50. Sep feeder cattle, 365.97, up 57. Seeing a little strength in those back month feeder cattle. Talked about that earlier about could those back months be undervalued versus the front. At least that's what we talked about this morning on a conference call. Way beyond my pay grade. October lean hogs, 94.27, up 37. December lean hogs, 86.97, up 47. Let's bring them in. Eric from Pinion Risk Management. We're talking Western Kansas, Eastern Kansas. That's cattle country, right?
Oh yeah, that's grew up around that. Even myself, a little cow-calf operation. So yeah, we've got a lot of that around here.
Excellent. A lot of optimism. As I told you, the whole group was out in Western Kansas last week, and there was some glasses clinking, and we did talk about when times were tougher, but that is not right now, correct?
Well, in general, yeah, for most in the cattle industry, I think we're at all-time highs, record-breaking markets. So obviously, you get a few more smiles there than what you're seeing on the grain side. Now, I will say from a cash flow standpoint, certainly to be in the cattle business right now, you're stretched pretty tight. I mean, it is very tight, and that's from the producer all the way to the banks that support them. But overall, looking at that cattle market, you can get pretty caught up in the day-to-day gyrations that we've seen. And we've had some, fairly significant ones that a few years ago would really have us shaking our head. But, longer term, if you look at those weekly charts, it's singing the same tune. I know everybody, including myself, we're trying to find those little signs, open interest, volume, what's box beef doing, what's happening, and what's the talk in the grocery store. But it's a demand-driven market. And when it comes to that supply issue that we've talked so much about, I mean, again, you look at news of the screwworm numbers there in Mexico, they're going higher, not lower. That's concerning. Doesn't seem like opening of that border is going to happen anytime soon. Then you throw in the tariffs on Brazil, another source of potential cattle. And again, those numbers just, boy, the beat continues is the best way to talk.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I got to get out of here because Suzanne's looking at me. She wants to read that teleprompter. Eric's the best. Thank you, Eric. Sorry, I cut you short. Suzanne.
I do not, but I always love to give you the floor. I just want you to know that. Always doing a great job.
I'm always ready. If that teleprompter goes out, I'll just keep talking. Right.